This is News Talk.
It's 9 o'clock. This is Eamon Falvey. Good evening. An Irish celebrity has been in court accused of engaging in a sexual act with a child under the age of 17 on 3 occasions in 2010 and 2011. Given the nature of the charges, the man can't be named. Here's our courts correspondent Frank Graney.
The man was arrested this morning and appeared before Judge John Brennan a few hours later. He's facing 3 charges of engaging in a sexual act with a child under the age of 17 on dates in 2010 and 2011. One of the acts is alleged to have taken place in a specific address in Dublin city centre, while the other 2 relate to unknown locations, also in Dublin. The court heard the man made no reply after being cautioned. There was no objection to bail today, and he's due back in court next month. He has yet to indicate a plea, but the Director of Public Prosecutions has directed trial by indictment, which means he'll be tried before a judge and jury at Dublin Circuit Criminal Court if he decides to contest the allegations. Frank Graney at Dublin District Court.
The latest attempt at an Assembly recall in Northern Ireland again failed to elect a Speaker. As a result, opt-out organ donation legislation for the North also has to wait. James Gold reports from Stormont.
The family of 6-year-old Dahi McGowan, who is waiting on a heart transplant, was at Parliament buildings today, hoping to see a Speaker elected and Dahi's law go through its last stages. But the DUP didn't nominate a Speaker and has accused Sinn Féin of blackmail and stunt politics. Dahi's dad, Martin, said he wasn't surprised about today's outcome.
We're not at all surprised, but you know we've never lost hope, and even up until that last second, we still had a wee bit of hope, and even though it was all but confirmed, but beforehand.
It now seems like the only option for the family is to go through Westminster.
I think it's down to our last hope at this moment is Westminster, so that's why I'm calling on our MPs, I'm calling on the Secretary of State for honesty, for transparency. What can we do? Is this now possible?
Martin says he hopes to be going over to London within the next few weeks.
More than 2/3 of young women say they felt pressured by their partner to do something sexually they didn't want to do. Figures from Women's Aid found 93% of respondents have been threatened by their partner to post explicit or intimate images of them online. The charity is calling for community and school leaders to promote healthy relationships among teenagers. That's it for now. More news in an hour.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Make the most of Paddy's weekend with Ryanair low fares to Bologna, Lisbon or Madrid.
A dry start to tonight with the rain developing in Atlantic coastal counties, lows of 4 to 7 degrees Celsius. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Now, Annette Fitzgerald became our latest winner today when she answered a call and gave Barry the all-important number. The cash machine's been reloaded. New amount is €20,915.37. So text played 57557. Get your entry in by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And then across the goal line network of stations, Barry Dunn will make the call. If your phone rings, answer within 5 rings. The exact amount in euro and cents, please, and the cash is yours. So the new amount, €20,915.37. Over 18s only, text cost €2.50, and you're playing across the goal line network of stations. Terms and conditions on newstalk.com.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then.
What about your start to the game? It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Now, AC Milan 1-0 up against injury-ravaged Spurs this evening. That game on in Milan. We are into the 48th minute. Second half's underway. Meanwhile, Mbappe on the bench for PSG this evening. He's coming back from a thigh injury. Messi does start. He is certainly not 100%, as does Neymar. 0-0 between PSG and Bayern. High stakes for both sides. You feel PSG in particular, if this project is ever going to get over the line. So we'll keep you updated. These are first legs. Mick is hanging on with us in the background.
Me into the studio for the whole night today.
It's true. And Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent is here in the studio. Good evening, Daniel.
It's good, yeah.
So Liverpool last night, Monday Night Football. I went home after the show and I thought, well, I'll watch the abbreviated highlights, which are nicely condensed half hour on Sky Sports in the early hours of the morning. And I hadn't fully appreciated being on air and not keeping an eye on things too closely. Liverpool, for the first time, looked like a side with energy. I don't know why this has happened, but this was a Liverpool who, at times, for certain goals, had that old devastating speed again and energy again. I thought, my goodness, what has happened here? Now, you burst my bubble just there by saying...
They played Everton.
It's Everton. But I think Everton notwithstanding, this was a major swing back to something approaching Liverpool energy levels. Jordan Henderson looked like the Jordan Henderson of old. From minute one, he was just fired up. And there was a speed to Salah, who's been so iffy for so long. I thought he was kind of electric again, really dangerous again. Núñez is Núñez. I mean, he has so many good things, but he will inevitably miss the chances. And there was one where he tried to curl it into the far right corner. It wasn't a difficult angle. It's almost become routine in this era of the Premier League to score those chances. And I mean, he sent it comfortably wide. So he remains an issue, I suppose. Stefan Bajcetic in midfield, who was playing under-18s football last season. Carragher gave him man of the match. He did catch the eye. And if there's one thing Jordan Henderson wants around him, it's not Thiago, it's young legs. And this guy was like tenacious. So I put it to you, Dan, this was potentially turning a point in the road, because I just haven't seen them with this energy and this kind of zest at all this season.
Oh, you're falling into a major trap here. This is like trap, like this is set out in front of you, and it's like, nah, like I recently enough, like I would have been saying here, Liverpool still definitely finish in the top four. I'm not believing the whole thing is broken or cracked or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that last night to me doesn't reflect any kind of major turning point at all. Like, it's a Monday night derby against your rivals with a new manager, bit of spice between the managers in the past. I mean, Liverpool are a far better side than Everton. Like, Everton are down the bottom of the table. I mean, earlier this season, like, Liverpool turned on the style, knocked 9 past Bournemouth in one game or whatever. Like, what you see sometimes with these like big teams like that are having bad seasons, they will have these performances they produce where they look like themselves. But what's killed Liverpool is energy is fine, it's one thing, but it's actually just like application. They're conceding early goals in games. Like, I think people find they've struggled because of their energy, and then there's a game where they're energetic, and it's like, well, this is clearly they've reached some kind of point in the road here. But for me, with Liverpool, it's just more like, what's happening if you're starting games so badly all the time? That can't be just put down to energy. There's something more of a breakdown and a fault there. And a big memorable Anfield night where the crowd is really pumped up for it because it's your rivals, to me doesn't sort of represent. I mean, the first goal, right, was a scintillating breakaway. But I mean, it is worth pointing out that, like, Everton did hit the post from close range, and I mean, they could have scored from the follow-up, and that was from a corner after a little bit of pressure. Could completely change the tone of the evening. So, I like Núñez actually. I think I know his erratic streak is clearly there to see, but he's definitely got attributes that can, I think in his second season, I think over time I wouldn't be giving up hope against him. But there was obviously parts of Everton they felt they could attack and cause problems. But really, I'll believe it. I'll believe it when they're going away from home on a sort of a, 2-3 games in a row and they're doing the same thing. Then I'll sort of declare some kind of corner turned. I wouldn't read a huge amount into it.
Away from home this Saturday to Newcastle, which is now Champions League 6-pointer. I take all your points. But genuinely, I haven't seen them play at this speed or with this kind of zest in a very long time. Again, Henderson making challenges, all of them making challenges. The Tarkowski header, definitely a sliding doors moment, and it would have been interesting to see if they'd responded. But I thought it was incredibly striking. They just haven't played this pace before. Jurgen Klopp addressed this afterwards in the press conference. So here's Klopp talking to journalists about a much better Liverpool we can agree on. If it's for a night or more sustained, we'll find out.
I'm in love with our crowd, and what they did tonight I was very special, to be honest, and was just extremely helpful. The boys paid back, and so it was a real derby. Difficult opponent to play against, but we played the game we wanted to play, and not the game Everton wanted to play. And
what's the key to that?
keeping the ball, switching the sides, staying patient but finding direction, get into behind the line of them. Even that's because they try to hold the 18-yard line, and so the timing was not perfect. We had a few offside moments there, but the idea was good. And being there, I saw a real unit tonight, where everybody was fighting, really fighting, and that goals we scored were two sensational counter-attacks, to be honest. Can you remember a situation when we had last time that many options in a counter-attack for the guy who had the ball? I can't. So tonight we were there, and that has to be now the sign for us what we have to do. And even when you're in a game like this, like they're really dominant. I don't know the numbers, but I think we had 70% probably around the ball, but scored 2 goals from counter-attack, and that makes it really special.
Does that first goal, I mean, obviously we don't know what the future holds, but does it feel like it might be a transformative moment? You could go 1-0 down, despite playing well, you could go 1-0 down, 18 seconds later, it's in their net.
Yeah, absolutely. So we thought the same. We thought the same because last week it was the first ball coming in, deflected goal, and it obviously gives the game a direction. There's no doubt about that. It should not be that impactful, but it still happens from time to time. And so yes, it was the biggest difference, I would say, between other games and tonight. But I really thought the performance for the full 95, 96 minutes was the best for a while as well. And so that's what we would take wins as well when you don't play well. That happens not often, but from time to time. But it's much better to get 3 points when you deserve it really, and tonight we deserved it.
Jurgen Klopp there, not playing down the quality on show at times. I think he's right not to. This was different. Mark my words, Dan. Don't text me next Saturday evening.
I just think, like, I see your point, but I think a more savvy team would. He's talking about the options for the counter-attacks for the first goal. A more savvy team cuts that off at source pretty quickly. Probably like Seamus Coleman got sucked into it there, but I'm not sure if Newcastle would leave themselves exposed in that manner to that type of break. So I don't know. Like the Everton status as a rival, sort of bequeaths the game with a bit of an importance. You know, if they were playing who's on similar points to Everton, if they were Liverpool playing at home to them and beat them that way, would you be finding a huge amount out of it?
I would, because of the speed and the energy and that sense of cohesion. Because Everton, if nothing else under Dyche, will work hard and will be fired up, as Arsenal found out. Like, I thought in advance of this game, Liverpool's need was great for sure. But there was something about a fired up, motivated, hard-working Everton that could have posed them problems if they were in any way flat again, and flat has been their basic modus operandi all season. So the fact that they came out and matched it and like they broke Everton, I thought, with their energy, which again is just the Liverpool of 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see that.
You're making me go further now than I want to.
Yeah, you're very like Liverpool.
Could they win the league?
They are going to win everything. But I don't know. I think again, it's like, well, Everton. There you go. Everton had the bounce for that Arsenal game. They were very good, but like, they're where they are for a reason too. It's difficult to sustain the bounce to, like, you know, to a sort of to a point where it becomes the norm when you're just in the door. And maybe they're a very good opponent for actually Liverpool at the moment.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see. Next week we could be here talking about how Liverpool went to Newcastle and did a number on them, and they're back in the game. Not so sure.
Kingsley Coman has scored the opener for Bayern Munich. They are 1-0 up against PSG in Paris, 57 minutes on the clock. As soon as the goal went in after celebrations, the camera cut immediately to Kylian Mbappe taking off his top.
He's now on, yeah.
They're saying, get out there, rescue us for the love of God. World Cup final style.
Yeah, well, he's on. He's already created a bit of danger. Donnarumma was really bad for the PSG goal. It just went under him. You know, one of those that was a little bit too close to him, and it just went under his body.
Souček would have saved it.
Yeah, exactly.
Back page, by the way, just on Liverpool for another moment. The back page, for instance, of the London Times here, remarkable that no one lost their life. This UEFA commissioned report, it's an independent panel, but it's commissioned by UEFA on the back of Stade de France last year. Initially, when I saw this report had been published, I thought, well, we kind of know all we need to know about this situation. But some of the language used within is frightening, and UEFA are 100% culpable in every way. It's just the most damning report. So again, that headline, it's remarkable that no one lost their life. This really could have been so dangerous. For instance, the report says the dangerous conditions on the concourse outside the turnstiles, compounded by the police deploying tear gas at disorderly groups of locals, as well as using pepper spray and supporters trying to gain entrance with valid tickets. It is remarkable no one lost their life. UEFA, it turns out, delegated safety and security and policing duties. You'd sort of think with organisations the size of UEFA that just there'll be a degree of, if not best practice, things will be done reasonably well. And then it just turns out it's shambolic behind the scenes. UEFA sought to insulate itself from anything that went wrong. In doing so, it removed its own safety and security unit from a vital role to monitor and supervise and join together the various efforts and to troubleshoot all problems. So the report says that's wholly unacceptable. And it says inside as well, and it's kind of interesting, back when the Stade de France held that 06 Champions League final, I think that was the Arsenal-Barcelona one famously. Back when it held the Champions League final in 06, there were issues there, and the UEFA reported after the match that there had been serious problems, including failures with police, and there were access problems. So this ground had proved tricky for them the last time they were there. And Martin Callan is named. He was involved then. He's still involved now as chief executive of UEFA events. He comes in for massive criticism. And also, and this is important to note, given that, you know, we're talking about Man City not cooperating with investigations, they say Martin Callan's account of what occurred was seriously flawed, and it contained assertions that were objectively untrue. In effect, UEFA lied to us in their own commissioned investigation. It's a miracle no one died. Nothing to do with the fans. There were not fans turning up with no tickets. And I wonder what the consequences of this will be.
Yeah, I think it was discussed somewhere as well that, I mean, delaying kickoff, it was sort of Sefrin sort of making a call on it. Like, you know, how again, and you see, I'm maybe thinking more of FIFA in terms of certain aspects of maybe generalising big sporting football bodies, but you sort of assume, because of the layers of people that work for them and the sort of the size of the organisation, and UEFA, like, it's a sort of, you mentioned them in a story and it sort of bestows importance on it, UEFA, that these are like these slick, well-oiled operations that are, you know, that every decision is sort of thought through in great detail, and they operate, like, you know, with thorough professionalism at all times. And fortunately, like, I mean, they're in many cases, like, they're very vulnerable to errors and disorganisation and whatever it might be. I mean, UEFA a lot of the times, I mean, you know, the decision making around where they bring finals and competitions, you know, for, you know, it's often, you know, it's not necessarily driven by, well, this will be the best venue for the supporter experience. It can be, you know, well, which has got layers of corporate hospitality, you know, which can satisfy certain criteria to hit targets. And
this was
commercial
the
targets.
final taken off St. Petersburg as well. So maybe the leading time was short. I do have a clip here from Professor Clifford Stott. So he co-authored this report. It's an independent review, and for instance, he talked here about Liverpool fans and it seems their life-saving actions.
Crushes developed that were potentially fatal, and it was the ability of Liverpool football fans to recognise the dangers that were being faced by themselves and others, and to organise collectively to address those challenges that helped people avoid death. Had that not happened, we believe that we would have been looking at a stadium disaster where people would have died. And it really is sad that we live in a situation where people fall back on stereotypical views of football fans in general, that allows for this idea that somehow football fans are to blame for these problems. It's partly those lazy stereotypes that lead us into circumstances like those that we experienced in Paris, and no football fan should believe that they're immune from circumstances like that developing around them.
So that's Professor Clifford Stott. He co-authored the report. I think fans do generally go to games and think in 2020 2 as it was then, they are immune from these kind of disasters, and they came perilously close.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose in Qatar there was a lot of issues with tickets and handling of access to games, and I mean there was very slightly different and completely different in some ways, but there was obviously a very serious incident at the African Cup of Nations last year where people passed away. So it can happen, but again, like, it's the Champions League final. You sort of think that this is how we talk about the Champions League, is like, in a footballing sense, we'll speak about it as the cream of everything, and you sort of assume that the operations around the final will match that, and it's not the case. I mean, and like, maybe it's always easy to sound very wise about it in hindsight, right after it's a disaster, or a near disaster.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Stade de France, a lot of people, Irish people here listening, would have gone and attended Stade de France. It's not actually a pleasant experience to go there. Getting out there after the game, getting out of it is very difficult, hugely complicated, which creates a lot of stress for people, and even getting there isn't always straightforward, even though it's not it's only a couple of stops from Gare du Nord, but it's messy, and clearly there's a certain prestige and a standing and the size of the venue or whatever it is. There's got a bit of a in recent football history, it's a venue that carries a lot of symbolism, but as you've mentioned, like, they've delegated elements of the organisation to local authorities in such a way that they were unfit for purpose, and it's obviously very emotive for a lot of reasons. This, naturally, the involvement of Liverpool and with their history and what it means almost to be, again, in some ways, cast as culpable in some way, even in just some of the discourse around the story at the time. It's adds another layer to the depth of feeling and the sort of horror around it. And to be fair, there would have been some reporting at the time on the night which was pretty important in terms of outlining, no, this is what's happening. Like, if we didn't live in the social media age where a lot of stuff could be captured by people on their phones, like at a different point in history, do you rely on the official version of events for longer? Does it survive for longer? At least the only good thing is that within a very short-ish period of time, it's been pretty clearly laid out what's happened.
Shame is a heavy emotion, Dan. No one wants to walk around with shame, but Pep Guardiola has been. So he initiated his press conference ahead of the Arsenal game tomorrow by saying there was something he wanted to say. I think most people have heard this clip at this stage, but here is Pep and his apology to Steven Gerrard.
Before I start the press conference, I want to say something. I apologize to Steven Gerrard for my unnecessary and stupid comments I said the last time about him. He knows how I admire him and his career, what he has done for this country that I am living in a training session. I am training, I am a shape of myself, what I said, because he doesn't deserve it. I truly believe my comments, what I said in my previous conference about I defend my club, but I didn't represent my club well, putting his name in this stupid comment. So I apologize. I said to him personally, but like I comment publicly, I have to do it here as well. So I'm so sorry for him, from Alex, his wife, kids, family, because it was stupid.
A range of takes on this apology. I'm not going.
All I want to know is what prompted that.
I'm not going to ask a leading question. Go on.
All I want to know is what prompted that apology.
You don't think a sincere moment of, why would I bring Steven Gerrard into this? God, I was emotional. It was silly. I must apologise.
That is perhaps true, but it may have. I would imagine. Actually, I have no reason for saying this. My opinion would be that must have been brought to his attention somewhere, somehow.
That it had become
you've gone a little bit far here, and then I would say he felt that shame and felt the need to reference, his wife, his family.
But that's whether he.
What he said wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that bad. He just referenced the
slip.
Yeah,
I was more offended by the lack of logic to it. But
you talk about a penalty miss of someone in the past, it's something that happened.
Yeah,
it's. I mean, again, it's like
it is the focus of a song that taunts the man at every turn.
Yeah, that's true. but it's like it's almost like, you know, there's a golden circle of like elite performers here, and you know, you don't, if you're in that club, the first rule of the club is like, don't disrespect anyone else.
Game respects game
in that club. So I'd love to know.
Okay,
is
but
there
whether
some connection, is there a third party, is there a shared agency or people that are sort of pushing those buttons? But you have to go far in this apology.
Whether it was prompted by his own self-reflection or somebody saying, Pep, you don't do this, come on. Either way, I would take the apology as sincere. I thought the way he delivered it was sincere. No, Mick thinks it's all a giant charade. We've been through this on a slight tangent.
Been through it twice tonight.
I don't know, like I don't particularly care. Like, do you know, like in the sense that like a lot of the, you know, the elite managers, what makes them best is like the ability to have a sort of a, I don't know, to be narcissistic in some ways and just see everything through their own eyes and nothing else matters. And sometimes we want to attach feelings to them because that would make us feel better about, yes, this is, you know, warmth to their character. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, if he'd had a go at some championship level footballer, you know, or had a spat with a manager championship level and had a go at him, would he come out and do things in the same way? Why did he feel the need to me? And that to me colours my view on the sincerity of the apology.
And also,
the thing is just because, sorry, Vic, yeah.
No, sorry, but it's just to your point about not caring. It's like we're talking all night about Pep Guardiola's apology to Steven Gerrard. Rich famous man apologised to the rich famous man having insulted it. Like, both of his press conferences, it's far more important this position he's taking on Manchester City's alleged wrongdoings and the charges brought against him by the Premier League, but we're all obsessing over Steven Gerrard. You know, that's why it doesn't matter. Like,
I'm with you. I mean, I'm not against
I'm sorry I brought it up.
The subject being brought up. Like, it's just,
God's sake,
I just think it's like it's soap opera. It's classic Premier League soap opera where it's just, you know, again, it's sort of people. It sort of stirs emotions, but it's just, honestly, I just cares. Like, you know, like
the right man for this show. Let's move on. We'll take a short break. Bayern are 1-0 up against PSG. So, despite Neymar's introduction, the flow of traffic is still very much towards the PSG goal. And then Spurs in Milan. Very latest is it was 1-0 to AC Milan.
Still 1-0.
It's still 1-0. Thank you, Michael. That goal coming on 7 minutes. Diaz with the goal on 7 minutes in this game. No goals since. So 1-0 in both games to Milan and to Bayern. We'll take a short break. We will chat about the fortunes of Nathan Collins, Gambazunu. We will talk about the Liam Brady documentary and a few other bits and pieces. Back in 1 minute.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk. Screen Time with John Fardy.
This week on the show, we remember all that Burt Bacharach gave to the cinema. I chat to the director of a controversial new documentary all about the pro-nuclear movement called Atomic Hope. As the Dublin International Film Festival launches, we speak to its festival director, Gráinne Humphreys. Plus, the one and only Pat Short chats about his favourite film, as well as his acting life and times.
Screen Time with John Fardy.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast now on newstalk.com or on the Newstalk app.
This is an emergency appeal from UNICEF Ireland for children affected by the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. Children urgently need medical supplies, blankets and food. UNICEF is on the ground saving lives, but we urgently need your help. Please visit unicef.ie to give a donation today. Thank you.
Isce an tanam nua atá Irish Water. Anam nua agus chumantas le núnach de chóla her servicey pibli isce ól agus fiol isce atá dlán, savalja agus intafa fud na heran. Madja le hen chesh fi aiban na servisha no con aible hisca ól no fiol isce I do chiantar huriscu is féidir dole jagval le hisce eran fi hicar or sa lá, shock blas a teachtain. Glieran ag a hain a hocht a náj, do a shock the hocht, no che go water.ie.
Your next move matters, so why not move better? Start your move to permanent TSB today. Apply in-app for our award-winning current account. So don't just move bank, move better. Apply in-app today. Applications for Explore Current Account in-app for over 18 personal customers. Qualifying criteria, fees and charges, terms and conditions apply. Awarded bonkers.ie Best Current Account 2022. Permanent TSB PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Island's Edge Stout is less bitter, and so is Alana Rourke from Dublin. Alana.
Well, my so-called best friend Emma knew I liked this guy Eric, but then she asked him out before I could. And 2 years later they were married.
Ah, no.
Yeah, but I'm not so bitter about it now.
Well, that's good.
Especially since Eric ended up ageing like milk left out in the sun.
Yeah, we're going for less bitter here now.
And the kids. Oh, the kids, right?
No, sorry. Thank you, Alana. Okay, thanks for sharing. Island's Edge. It's better, less bitter.
Get the facts, be drink aware, visit drinkaware.ie.
It's time to travel again, to feel nervous again, to go where they go and roar them on again. It's time to get beaten again, but still believe again. It's time to rise again for the Allianz Leagues. Advanced ticket sales only at GAA.ie or selected Centra and SuperValu stores. GAA, where we all belong.
You may think we need a lot of sun for solar panels in Ireland, but with modern panels from evolveecosolutions.ie, all you need is daylight. Our solar panels can save you money with fast installation and grants of up to €2,400. We also install heat pumps and insulation. And yep, there are grants for those too. Check out evolveecosolutions.ie and book your free no-obligation consultation. evolveecosolutions.ie. More power to your home.
It may be Dublin's only 5-star boutique hotel, but the Dillon is different. Soulful, luxurious, friendly, perfect for romantic city break, gourmet dining, or fabulous girls' weekend. The Dillon is sophisticated, but with a more relaxed vibe. Use promo code RADIO now for an exclusive online discount at dillon.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, all the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Welcome back. Still 1-0 Bayern in Paris, 76 minutes on the clock. PSG almost scored, it must be said. Mbappe, just the speed is frightening. Powered through, got a shot away, it was saved. Rebound fell to Neymar, he got a shot away. Fell to Mbappe, he put it into the net, but Mbappe was offside at that stage, so it was disallowed. But the let's go for it PSG mentality is starting to bear fruit, and Bayern a little bit disorganised at the back. I kind of thought Bayern might be sitting deep and seeing this out for 10-15 minutes, but they're a touch ragged themselves. So you kind of suspect a goal coming one way or another still in Paris. Meanwhile, Milan still 1-0 up against Spurs. Let's move this ever so slightly towards an Irish corner, Dan. League of Ireland starting very soon. I know you were at the launch last week. Liam Brady documentary, I think, just warmed everybody's hearts last night. And then you were writing about Nathan Collins and Gavin Bazunu. Now, I note that the story above it in the Irish Independent most read list is Pep Guardiola issues apology over Stephen Gerrard comments, but we don't have to get into that. It's hard to trump that. That's just a good story.
Well, I mean, people keep bringing it up all the time.
I know. Get over it, people. Yeah. So let's start on a positive, which is Liam Brady documentary last night. I watched it all when I got home. You, I presume, watched it, and Michael has watched a chunk of it this afternoon.
I watched about half of it, yeah. And I skipped to the end so I could see the lovely Jack Charlton bit.
I love seeing Ellenfield Park at the start in Whitehall, because this is around the corner from where I live now, actually, in Park, where I was walking a lot through lockdown. It was like, I know St Kevin's trained there now and have for a number of years, but I saw Brady standing there going, oh my God, that's where he is. And again, he's gone from Ireland so long, and maybe to people of a certain age, all this information, like we know, like Robbie Keane's Tala or wherever it might be, I just didn't quite like sort of pin down that they were the pitches that where Kevin's play now. Still, the younger teams would play. That's where he was playing his football, and the scout. I love the archive footage of the scout coming over, seeing him at the time.
His face really softened when he was talking about his childhood, and he was like, and then the summer with the street leagues, because every the street was full of kids, and he just turned to the camera and said, "It's just a fantastic childhood. It's just incredible." One of, I don't know, 36 lovely heartwarming moments in that documentary. It's very wistful.
It was brilliant, yeah. And I think, see, the problem, not the problem, but like, I suppose the perception of Liam Brady that a lot of people might have, and maybe this can be a personal experience of your own, but it's a lot of sort of people recall Brady as the pundit in latter years, as opposed to not seeing Brady as the footballer, you know, as he was to people who watched him in his pomp. Even like Brady, the manager, that brief spell he has at Celtic, and sort of very gruff and you know, that that view would have been that he's quite sort of has this steely outlook. Now, in fairness, you mentioned, I think earlier on, the clip of Szczesny, who was obviously at the Arsenal Academy with them and speaking about how he was feared by the sort of the kids there, and of course Liam Brady would have signed a load of young Irish players as well around that time. Would have been like sort of, Anthony Stokes, Stephen Bradley, Stephen O'Donnell, Graham Barrett, all of them went to Arsenal, and Brady was a big figure. But again, you sense he was sort of, I don't know, not someone you'd be having small talk with and chat. And yet you saw so much more of his character.
But I think the Szczesny exchange with Brady is maybe the documentary in a microcosm, where Szczesny is saying to him, "We all feared you." And Brady kind of, yeah. And then he goes, "No. I mean, Steve Bowl was the coach and a few other people, but we were afraid of you. I mean, you were cold." And at this stage, Brady's like, "All right, I get it. Don't labour the point here." And he's like you were not an arm around the shoulder guy, and like kept going on. And but then, akin to the documentary, the kind of saving grace of that exchange and the warmth that is there behind the Brady public facing demeanour is when Szczesny goes, "But I really did appreciate you giving me the €20 for phone credit every month." And Brady's like, "Shush, shush." And Szczesny's like, "Oh, I didn't pay tax on it, ha, ha, ha." But he said, that meant a lot to me to be able to phone home, and that was a really lovely, generous thing. And Brady, who was also homesick, and you see there's a very empathetic soul there as well. And I thought that, like, the documentary was that exchange stretched out, really. You got to see all the kind of warmth and character there. And I mean, the images of him when he's going to see Dylan and he's a long-haired Arsenal wonder kid and hanging out in London in his very fashionable gear. I mean, you can't, oh my God, he was Ireland's Pat Nevin for a few years.
And listen, what about how good he was?
Yeah.
Like, I think for a lot of people just seeing, again, I think people of a certain generation will have seen maybe the goal against Brazil and one or two of the Arsenal goals. And I think at various times in lockdown, the Russia game, his debut, has been repeated for Ireland like on a number of occasions. Yeah. But just seeing some of the goals in Italy and how he played, like it's just an exceptional talent. And the thing is, like, I was actually thinking about it today. I mean, like, obviously he was gifted, right? Like a gifted talent. But I mean, in this country, we do produce like gifted players, like gifted tactical players. They often just don't get to a particularly high level. And like, what actually I was struck by Brady is that people talk about him as being this skillful footballer, but actually there was a bit of speed in how he played it, and some of those runs and driving runs and meeting the ball at pace. It was like, oh yeah, like this was the full package. Like you sort of tend to think of him as he was spraying the ball around when he's described as a tactical player. Yeah. But it wasn't that.
Wasn't it interesting on that point of speed? Tardelli saying that Brady was this almost frustrating player because on the face of it he was slow and he never looked to be sprinting. But then he'd glide by with a feint. Yeah. And he said he played the game at his own unique tempo. Mbappe, who is fast, I think we can safely say, looks to have scored for PSG. So 1-1, I mean, what a freakish talent. They throw him on and he manages to just plug the situation out of fire.
Completely changed the game.
It's frightening how good this guy is.
Particularly, because I mean, with PSG, like, you did wonder how some of them could just get up to the pitch of this competition with the World Cup. A lot of them were involved in. Like, you look at Neymar and Messi and Marquinhos and even Hakimi. Mbappe, though, was almost so young, so fired up. It could be a positive for him. I mean, they've been all over the shop in PSG, their form.
I think it's an OG, actually, but it's Mbappe's presence. No, it's not. How dare I? It was Mbappe. He must have made up about 10-15 yards on two Bayern defenders and out-sprinted them and got on the end of a cross into the box. It's being looked at.
Hold on, I think
reason.
this has been ruled
I think
out.
It could be gone.
It looks like it's offside. It
big
didn't
hand
look
in the
offside.
air.
I think it was the player down the left-hand side who put the cross in who was offside, maybe.
It didn't look it even on the replay now, but obviously
it's
tight lines, yeah.
UEFA have got someone drawing the lines in the
Lee Mason is on top of the situation, everyone. Fear not. No goal offside.
There you go.
I was surprised at how sentimental Brady was, but which I kind of enjoyed in it. But just on your point, Dan, about kind of like it wasn't just like he was naturally talented, but he also had the speed. But he also had, I think, something I don't know if they touched on all that much in a determination. So it's like he's Player of the Year at Arsenal. He's 24, he's been there since he's 13 and he's a folk hero. You almost don't expect an Irish lad to sort of want more than that. And he was like, there was one line about I was determined to move abroad.
Yeah, they never expanded on that.
No.
See, I think the only problem you would have with the documentary, and who are we to criticise, is it's too short.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like, it's really
I'd take a second part of that.
It's really a 3 or 4 parter, and you know, they made probably the only choice they had, which was to say, well, as interesting that Chesney conversation was, we can't delve into his Arsenal career, we can't go near him being a manager. The TV career is its own other show as well. The Trapp years in depth is difficult. Let's just focus on Italy and a bit on how he came through at Arsenal. You know, there's so much there.
Yeah.
And I was struck by that line as well, Nick, because he just said, I always wanted to go abroad. With no explanation as to why.
I know, yeah, but I do feel that there's an element of like, I've done all I can here, you know.
Yeah.
Messi just missed another chance there for PSG.
I hadn't realised actually he was PFA Player of the Year as well.
Yeah, I think people forget. I mean, so we don't remember. You know, we were too young to remember. But like the level that he sort of ascended.
But I dare say a lot of even contemporaries of ours older don't remember his Italian years because they just wouldn't have been on TV all that often. That footage wasn't available. A funny moment when him and Tardelli are talking, and Tardelli says of the first championship winning year. So he's at Juventus 2 years, wins 2 leagues. Oh, you were the top scorer that year as well. And Brady's like, yeah. How many did you score? It was like 8. It's like, oh my God, Italian football.
Yeah.
We didn't have a great striker.
Yeah.
But yeah, on your point, Mick, on the sentimentality, I know what you mean, because I guess in his role as a TV pundit, how sentimental is he going to be? But can you imagine you get to that age and time flies by, and you suddenly go back to the square in Turin and all these memories come flooding back? Or he points out this ridiculous church and says, oh, that was my local church.
Yeah.
It's like it was like something you'd see in Rome. It was beautiful. And then he says, though I spent more time in that pub next to it. And, just the flood of memories that you must get when you go back to a place like that was lovely.
Yeah, and I think as well, the thing is sometimes with someone like Brady, again, who's a pundit, can often be quite unforgiving. You know, he can be sort of his standards for what he would expect of Irish teams would be very high, but you sort of can understand that again because of the heights that he reached as a player. Like, that was the world in which he operated in, and as I said, like a lot of people of a certain age, like, oh, there's Brady on the telly. Again, he'd probably maybe sometimes a little bit more glass half empty than full, you could say, in terms of the delivery. But then you sort of accept, well, this is where he was. Like, Italy was the place to go then. As you say, maybe a short explanation of like maybe how Italy was the place to be at that point, and he was a trailblazer by going there, and that an Irish person, and as you mentioned, that he pushed out. Look at something like Seamus Coleman's played 400 games for Everton. You could argue that at times in his career at Everton, he maybe could have rocked the boat and got out and didn't. And Brady did it.
He should have, really.
Yeah, no, that's...
he should have.
That's
as legendary as he will forever be around Goodison. One last quick point. You mentioned the Jack Charlton letter. I presume that's the first time people had heard that Charlton letter or knew of that Charlton letter. That's the kind of big revelation at the end.
Yeah, he introduced it as such in the sense of I'm glad I'm doing this show because it's a chance to mention it.
It was a beautiful letter. Like, it was far more emotionally literate and just emotional than you would associate with Jack. I'm sorry if I hurt you and all of these kind of things, and I hope we can repair the damage done. A very eloquent letter.
Yeah.
And even Brady, when he read it, then just looked at whoever was holding the sound boom or directing and just had this moment of, that is a pretty amazing letter, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. But then again, it's just, as I said, maybe the whole thing is just challenging perceptions of characters, on the basis of maybe their exterior and how they dealt with, say, press stuff at that era.
Yeah.
It's very much about your front and being showing no weakness.
You have written about, we've about 3, 4 or 5 minutes here, the varying fortunes of Gavin Bazunu, Nathan Collins, the headline of your piece, learning that the Premier League security is an illusion. So Bazunu has had a tricky season, obviously, at Southampton, and is getting to know lots of different managers, and so that's each time a new manager arrives, that's tricky. And then, in some respects, Nathan Collins, maybe this is a touch more under the radar. Lopetegui has arrived at Wolves, and we just look at Collins and think, well, he's part of the furniture there at this stage, but some early teething problems dropped. Yeah,
so they brought in Craig Dawson at the end of the window. They've put him straight in the side. They've retained Max Kilman. They've changed formations at the time, but Lopetegui's gone for a back four. Now Kilman is left-sided. Dawson's right-sided. There could be a theory that that's why they wanted the left-right balance. If Collins was left-sided, might he have retained his place? Although, I mean, I think at times in the future we may see him play on the left, possibly even for Ireland. But he's been on the bench for the last 2 games now. No big deal in terms of losing your mind over it. But the fact is Wolves have won both of the games, so it probably increases the opportunity.
It's 2 games become 10, Dan.
That's when it gets a little bit more concerning. But then again, he's 21, like he's a player for the future. Wolves, in the short-termism of the Premier League, like if they get relegated this year, Lopetegui's gone, right? So he's coming in to try something short-term. I don't think it means that what you've seen with your eyes is wrong. Like I think Collins is like an incredibly talented player, but when you're operating at the highest level of the game,
so he's had the occasional lapse.
Nothing like I found with Collins at times this season. The odd misplaced pass and mistakes, they seem to get punished. Like, he's had involvement in, I suppose, little incidents that have led to goals for the other side.
Yeah.
Yes.
They stick in the mind.
The general level of his performance is very high, but I suppose that's the classic players come out with the cliche. You can't get away with mistakes like that at this level. He's had a couple, but again, not glaring. Okay. I don't think people were calling for him to be dropped, but yeah, but I mean, they're banking life experience, the two of them. Like Bazunu is working with another 3rd manager now.
This is 5 years crammed into one.
It's extraordinary. Like Bazuna's had an incredible football life for someone who's February 2002, so he's 21 this month. And I mean, just the range of stuff he's experienced between, starting off very young here. He had a year at Rochdale, not dissimilar to Southampton, where they were conceding loads of goals. But he emerged with his reputation unscathed because people can see the ability that shines through. But like the sort of the variety of experience he's lived through already, all his Irish stuff, saving a penalty from Ronaldo, I think it'll stand to him in the long term, even if, again, been a tough year for him.
We are pretty much out of time. We'll update you on the scores in just a second. Still Bayern 1, PSG 0. Football show brought to you by Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Back in just 1 sec.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk.
This is an emergency appeal from Concern Worldwide. Families in Turkey and Syria are struggling to survive in the aftermath of 2 devastating earthquakes, and freezing temperatures are making their situation even more desperate. Please help Concern provide blankets and shelter to those most in need. Visit concern.net today and give what you can. Thank you.
Dundeel Motors is home to Ireland's largest range of new and premium used cars from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships. That's why you'll find Frank Keane BMW on Dundeel. Visit Frank Keane BMW's showroom on Dundeel to find your next car. Dundeel Motors, for Ireland's largest range of new and used cars from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships. Visit dundeel.ie today.
Say hello to spring with lots of fresh offers at your local Woodies, with deals like 3 for 2 on laminate flooring and up to 30% off home furniture. We've got everything you need to bring that spring feeling home. And if it's the garden that you're looking to spruce up this season, you won't want to miss the Karcher K4 Power Washer for only €299. Offers are for a limited time only, so don't miss out. Shop the way that suits you, in store, online, or click and collect. Woodies, we're all homemakers. T's and C's and exclusions apply.
FBD doesn't stand for frightening lad dentists, ferociously beating drums, or feline business directors. FBD stands for support. We support business owners in Ireland with tailor-made services from personally assigned advisors. Visit your local branch to talk to your FBD insurance team. FBD Insurance. Support. It's what we do. Underwritten by FBD Insurance plc. FBD Insurance Group Limited, trading as FBD Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
At News Talk, we talk to almost 800,000 people every week. All kinds of people. In the mornings, on the school run, at work, and on the way home. We talk to them at lunchtimes, weekends, before they go shopping or head out for the evening. And we talk to them wherever they're listening, on radio, mobile, desktop, and smart speakers. But right now, of all the people we talk to, we're talking to you, businesses. Because if you want to talk to your customers, all you need to do is talk to us. To find out how we can make radio advertising work for your business, contact us at newstalk.com/advertising. News Talk. We let people know your business. Part of the Bauer Media Network of stations.
Leinster v Dragons in the BKT URC.
Saturday, February 18th, 7:35 in the RDS Arena. Support the boys in blue. Tickets on sale now at leinsterrugby.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
On the road for Gas Networks Ireland this winter, you know all about people's energy concerns. Because there are concerns, every winter and all year round. Rest assured, your gas experts are here, keeping Ireland's energy moving and you informed.
Oh, great. Thanks for coming so quickly.
No problem. How can I help? For expert advice, go to gasnetworks.ie/experts.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, all the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Welcome back. Is it going to be another one of those years for PSG? Well, they will go to Munich 1-0 down full time in that game. Meanwhile, Milan 1-0 up against Spurs. That's into the 93rd minute. Spurs mightn't think that's terrible. 1-0.
Given the midfield they have out tonight.
Injury ravaged to say the least. We are pretty much done. Football Show was brought to you by Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. OTB AM coming at you tomorrow morning, 7:30. We'll be back 7 o'clock in the evening. You can download all of tonight's show. Mick, thank you. Any idea what we have on the show tomorrow?
We have the Dream Team on Wednesday Night Rugby of Jerry
Dunn and Thornley. Interesting.
Dunn,
OTB AM tomorrow?
I don't have it, unfortunately. Sorry.
Don't bloody miss it. 7:30.
Good quality content.
And Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent. Dan, thank you very much.
What's in the Indo tomorrow, Dan?
No worries.
What is in the Indo?
Probably coverage of the new League of Ireland season, Joe. So it's
this Friday?
Starts off this Friday, yeah. So
okay. Let's talk about that in a bit more depth next Tuesday. Opening weekend and prospects for the season ahead. Richie McCormack is in for Tom Dunn for the week. We'll chat to you tomorrow.
Give him a ball and he out of grass. He'll give you a move for the perfect pass. Give him a ball and
keep up with what's going on at Newstalk FM on Facebook.
This is Dr. Georgina Jordan, Head of Emergency Response for Goal. The major earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria has left thousands dead and many more without shelter or safety. Goal teams are on the ground assessing needs and providing support to the